wherever you are putting your focus on, whatever aspect you are focusing on being, that is where your energy is going to flow. And that is what version of you is going to be kept alive, because that's where the energy is going. So if you are constantly focused on repeating the versions of yourself that are equivalent to your old identity, or you are continuing to be your old identity, what do you think is going to be kept alive? Your old identity. You are keeping those neural pathways in your brain alive and strong and frequently used. So that's going to be the most automatic path that you are going to take, especially in times of stress, times that are not so good, moments of weakness where that feeling where you need to work out, but you really don't want to work out. And it's like a moment of weakness because you end up just like taking a nap instead or whatever. That's what I mean here. Like in moments of weakness where you really don't want to practice the new identity, what are you going to do when you are faced with that decision of practicing the new identity and the old identity? I'm willing to bet you the choice that you pick is the choice that you basically whatever is the most repeated in your brain is going to be influencing your choice on which one you are more likely going to choose. And there's this really cool thing that I want to talk about today called the observer effect, and it has to do with quantum physics, and it's absolutely fascinating. I did some research on this years ago, and it's super fascinating because every single particle in this world, in this reality, is a part of a cloud when it's not being observed. It's a part of this particle cloud or a function cloud, and when you put your energy on that, or when you observe a particle, it collapses into waveform, so it becomes physical reality. So whatever you are not focusing on, or whatever is generally not being focused on, technically doesn't exist in the 3D because it is in a part of a particle cloud. I mean, I guess it does exist in the 3D, but it's where we can't see or observe it because we are not observing it, right? So it doesn't technically exist in a way in the 3D world, kind of, I guess. I need to do more research and brush up on it because it's been a while. But basically what this means for you and your identity is, and this kind of goes with the focus thing that I talked about just briefly earlier, right? What you focus on is what collapses into this timeline reality. So this is why people talk about timeline jumping and things like that, because when you are focusing on being your new identity, that version collapses from the particle cloud into waveform. And the more often you choose that new identity and collapse those particles into the waveform of who you are being, you are going to train your reticular activating system, which is the bouncer in your brain, the bouncer of your brain, or the filter of your brain, because that's the part of your brain that filters out billions and billions of stimuli that we deal with on a moment by moment basis, and determines what is important for you to focus on. It's what brings attention to the subconscious and conscious mind, right? And so when you are being someone different consistently and repetitively, the filter in your brain changes and rearranges around that new identity. So you are seeing things differently in the way that you never would have been able to before because you are being someone different. Think about it. If you were to completely step out of your shoes and step into someone else's shoes, what do you think you're going to see? You're going to see things completely different because you're looking from a whole different point of view and you're someone completely different. This is why people talk about timeline jumping and collapsing timelines, because you are essentially collapsing that waveform. You're collapsing particles from the cloud into waveform by observing them. This is actual quantum physics 101. When you are being a new identity, you are activating those particles to be waves. And that's crazy, right? So then your old identity is kind of put on the back burner back in that particle cloud and not being used. And it gives you the opportunity to train your neural pathways more and more and more, so you become more comfortable and it becomes more familiar being that new identity. And again, I talk about in other videos too, it kind of feels stressful sometimes to be practicing the new identity, and sometimes it puts your body in nervous system fight or flight because it's unfamiliar and your subconscious mind wants you to be as safe as possible, and it does not know what is good for you. It is completely blind. And when it is blind and it's comfortable with the old identity because that's who you've been for so long, or the majority of your life, or whatever, it sometimes feels like you get some lashback on being the new identity because it is unfamiliar. Even though consciously you know what is good for you and you know that this is safe and you know that this is what is meant for you, it kind of is challenging because your subconscious mind, your ego wants you to be protected because it wants you to stay in that comfort zone because that is what is the most familiar. So when you consciously and repetitively choose your new identity and collapse that identity into the waveform, into the reality that you are existing with right now, the reality you are playing with, yes, that repetitively will create those new neural pathways to make it feel more familiar, and it will get easier and easier, and you'll be that identity more and more consistently. And there was another part about this that I wanted to talk about too that I think is really fascinating, because we're all brought here for very unique and specific purposes. So whatever, like, have you noticed, like, there are things that light you up that don't light someone else up? Like, say again, you want to be an artist or something and someone else wants to be a firefighter. I mean, that's just like what I'm thinking of right now, right? But notice how it's so uniquely specific to you and to other people. Like, everyone has their own specific thing that lights them up inside. And do you think that's by mistake? Like, you were brought here to fulfill your purpose for a reason. It's almost like you're doing a disservice to not see that through and to not follow that path that your soul is calling out to you for, because it knows you were put here for that reason, to experience that. So the desires that you have, the desires that you want to manifest, like who you want to be in this world, is not a coincidence. That was meant to happen. It is all divinely orchestrated. You were put on this planet to experience that. Your soul knows this. That is why certain things resonate. When you want to follow your dream of being an artist, or when you hear about this stuff about manifestation and like becoming your best self or becoming your new identity, it's exciting and it resonates because your soul knows that this is a step on the path that you are supposed to take to become who you are truly meant to be and experience what you are truly meant to experience. So it's kind of interesting because there are so many different paths that you could take in life. And there are so many different timelines out there that exist, that it's like the butterfly effect, right? Like, every little thing happens for a reason. And there are so many different branches of life that you could take, like so many different paths, so many different directions. And every single path like is leading you to who you are meant to be and who you are meant to become. So when you are like not feeling that stuff resonates, or you are putting yourself down constantly and doing what you think you should do, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the world, because you were put here with this unique purpose for a reason, to fulfill it. So when I talk about this stuff like collapsing timelines, or like collapsing that waveform and pulling that identity from the particle cloud, like, there is a reason you were drawn to that particular identity that you are collapsing into the waveform and experiencing now. And there is a reason you feel called to change your identity. If you do, I mean, if you're not already living the version of you who you want to become, there is a reason you are feeling called to do particular things. Or if you have dreams or have goals, have a vision board, have things that you want to manifest in this reality, things that you want to experience, like, it's not even just who you're being, it's like the experience of life itself, right? Like, you were brought here for a reason to experience that specific thing that you are thinking about right now. And it is so awesome that we have been given the ability to like change that, like how malleable it is. Like, when you try a new path and you're like, oh, this isn't quite me or whatever, like, and you can pivot and like choose a whole different path that aligns way more than the one you had before. It is so sick. And like the repetition, because your mind, your subconscious mind thrives off of repetition, right? It doesn't know what's good for you, again, because it ultimately wants to keep you safe. But if you saturate your mind with the new identity over and over and over again, and you steep it like it's tea, what is going to come to fruition? Whatever you are constantly putting on your brain and repeating in your brain. That repetition is so key. It's like when you're consistent with going to the gym, you are going to see gains, right? When you are consistent with that, when you're consistent with eating healthy, taking care of yourself, you are going to see some sort of physical change. When you're consistent with your mindset and your new identity, or consistent with what you are manifesting, and really saturating your mind with that end result state, like when you're being the state of the version of you who already has what you are trying to manifest, or who already is who you're trying to be, right? Like feeling as if it's already done. When you are constantly saturating your mind and body with that, it has no choice but to collapse into that waveform and become a part of the 3D, because you are constantly saturating your mind with that. Your 3D reality is a collection of the most assumed thoughts that you have in your mind. Like whatever your mind is and whatever your thoughts are, the majority of your thoughts are, that is what is going to reflect in your 3D. Because when you are looking in that 3D mirror, when you are the one standing in front of that mirror, the thoughts that you have about yourself and the thoughts that you want, how you want to experience life, that is what shows in the mirror, and it validates by reflecting it back. So whatever you think consistently, and yes, sometimes it takes time with that 3D lag, because the 3D reality is more dense and your thoughts are like high-speed Wi-Fi. Yes, there is kind of a little bit of a tricky situation with the game there with the 3D lag, but the more and more and more you show up in front of that mirror every day as the version of you who has everything you desire, or who is the version of you that you desire to be, the more you're going to start to see eventually that 3D mirror is going to reflect that to you. And again, when you're looking into a mirror, like right now in this 3D reality, you see that it's instant, right? And for some people it is instant, and it's actually insane, those stories. Like, I don't know if you've heard stories, but like I know people who have like literally manifested things, or like an identity change overnight, because their desire to bring that to fruition, or their self-belief and that energy is so laser focused, like it actually does happen, and it's so incredible when it does. But like, again, that's like laser focused energy, and it's super sick. But yeah, so when you like are so laser focused on what you want, it does pierce through that 3D density a lot more, and it can come to fruition faster. But it's just like the law of the world, right? Like when you invest in something and you invest time and energy into going into the gym, right? And you're taking care of yourself, you see the return. When you're consistent on social media every single day for 300 days, right? Like you see the return. When you're consistent with investing money, and I'm not giving financial advice at all, but I know when you're consistent with investing money and things like that, or building a business, most of the time you see returns, right? And it's just like the law of wherever you put your energy goes, it compounds. I mean, I don't know if that's an actual law, but it's just such a true thing, right? And I know there's a part of you watching this that like resonates with that and can feel it on a deep core level, because you've seen results yourself, right? Like if you're an artist and you pour all of your time and energy into your craft and having self-belief that this is who you want to be, you have an end goal vision of you, who you want to become, this amazing artist, when you're consistently practicing that every single day, and not even every day, but like when you're staying consistent with it enough, right? That is eventually who you become. So when you are constantly like, again, taking particles from that particle cloud, oh my gosh, I have like cat hair in my eye. When you're observing the particles from that particle cloud that make up that identity that you are becoming, that new identity, it's going to become and collapse into that waveform more and more and more. Eventually, like you're literally collapsing timelines here when you are collapsing those particles into the waveform, because that is essentially what you are experiencing. And when you do that more and more, your brain literally changes around that identity, and it changes how you experience the world. And that is the moment everything changes. I hope that this all made sense, because I kind of went on different tangents here, but yeah, let me know.